The HOA meeting room was packed. Ava Whitlock stood at the head of the table, her pink blazer crisp, her voice cutting.
That hatchery is a swamp, a mosquito vector. It's a public health menace, and we are draining it.
She's been gunning for my operation for months. This isn't about mosquitoes. I've run that hatchery for 15 years. It's state licensed, inspected monthly. There's no standing water for breeding mosquitoes.
The county agrees with us. Rick's already signed the emergency drainage order.
Rick Polson, the county code enforcement officer, stepped forward and handed Elijah a formal document.
Mr. Beckett, I am sorry, but the order is final. You have 6 hours to begin drainage.
6 hours. That's not enough time to appeal.
Ava smiled, victory sharp on her face. Elijah Beckett held the order that would drain his life's work, and the pumps were already on their way. The pumps rumbled in before dawn. 2 flatbed trucks, hoses thick as pythons, and a crew with hard hats.
Rick, you know you are killing 800,000 trout. This isn't a swamp.
I am enforcing an order, Elijah. If I don't, I lose my job.
He won't stop. None of them will.
Rick gave the signal. Pumps coughed diesel, and water began gushing from the first pond.
Start the discharge. All lines open.
Ice-clear water surged through the hoses, flooding the drainage ditch, taking the trout's world with it.
Panicking. They start dying when the water drops below their gills.
Within an hour, the pond's edge receded. Fins broke the surface, fish clustering in shrinking water. By sunrise, the first pond was nearly empty. The writhing mass of trout gasped in the muddy trickle that remained. The pumps ran for 14 straight hours. Pond after pond bled dry under the scorching sun. By noon, 3 ponds were empty, concrete floors glittering with the silver of motionless trout.
780,000 fish. The number hammered in my skull with every pump stroke.
He didn't sleep. He walked the rows all night, watching the water recede inch by inch, a tide that would never return. When the pumps finally shut off, 780,000 juvenile rainbow trout were dead.
47 lakes. Stocking was a week away. I've just canceled an entire fishing season.
He knelt in the last drained pond, cradling a handful of dead trout.
Ava killed them, and she'll walk away like she always does.
Their rainbow colors faded to ash. The hatchery was silent. From the air, the hatchery looked like a scar on the land, the ponds like open graves, and the smell reached the road. Elijah drove to the state wildlife headquarters before sunrise, the reek of dead trout still in his clothes.
Beckett, you look like you haven't slept in a week.
Every pond is dry. Warden. 780,000 juveniles gone. I've got nothing to stock.
That was the entire spring allotment. 47 lakes, Elijah.
A wall map showed the state's lakes circled in red, everyone dependent on Beckett's hatchery.
We don't have a backup. No other hatchery in 200 miles produces this volume.
By 9 o'clock, agency directors were summoned. The conference room filled with grim faces. They ran the numbers. No fish meant no stocking. No stocking meant no season.
We're canceling the spring trout season. First time since 1944.
The room went silent. An 80-year streak had ended in a single night. By noon, the state put out the press release. Microphones crowded the podium. Warden Davis stepped up, face haggard.
Effective immediately. The spring trout season is canceled. We have no fish to stock. This is unprecedented.
Journalists fired questions. Cameras caught the moment, canceled, flashed on screens across the region. Inside Old Man Garvey's bait shop, the phone didn't ring. A canceled sign already sagged in the window. At the state park entrance, workers bolted a red-lettered "Season Canceled" sign to the gate. The parking lot stayed empty. Boat trailers sat untouched in driveways. Lodges along the lakefront posted closure notices. Within hours, social media exploded. Anglers tagged the state wildlife department, demanding answers. Tourism bureaus calculated the damage. Opening week alone meant millions in lodging, guides, and licenses. A group of outfitters gathered outside the state office, holding signs. Who killed our season? The ripple was just beginning, and the woman responsible was already rehearsing her denial. Within 10 days, the state's economic impact report landed, $34 million in projected losses. Lodges went dark. Bait shops closed their shutters. Outfitters laid off guides who'd worked the rivers for decades. The regional tourism board called an emergency session. At the state capitol, protesters crowded the steps. Save Our Season signs bobbed above angry faces. Legislators pounded desks in a packed hearing room. Who authorized the drainage? They demanded a full investigation. They subpoenaed county records, the HOA minutes, and the man whose hatchery had just been destroyed. Elijah Beckett was called to testify. The date set, next Thursday, 9 a.m.
They want answers. So do I.
Rumors swirled that the HOA's complaint was based on fabricated evidence. Rick Polson was ordered to preserve his records. Ava Whitlock received her own subpoena. She hired a crisis PR firm the same afternoon. Behind closed doors, the state attorney general's office opened a file on third-party interference into state contracts. The legislative hearing room was standing room only. Cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking. Elijah Beckett raised his right hand, swore the oath, and sat before the committee.
Ava Whitlock declared my hatchery a mosquito vector. There was no standing water. We were inspected monthly.
A legislator slid a county biologist's report across the table. The finding was blunt: no mosquito larvae.
They found the biologist's report. I told Rick to bury that.
I executed the order based on the HOA's complaint, but I never saw standing water myself. The report didn't either.
A murmur swept the room. Legislators exchanged glances. Who first alleged the mosquito risk? The chair's voice cut through the noise. All eyes turned to Ava Whitlock, who suddenly looked very small in her pink blazer. The gavel cracked. The hearing had its smoking gun, and it pointed straight at the HOA. After the hearing, a gray-haired attorney slid Elijah's state contract across the desk with a grim expression. He pointed to a yellow highlighted clause. Third-party interference indemnity. Full restitution for outside obstruction.
The HOA qualifies as outside obstruction. They owe me for all 780,000 fish.
Then the attorney dropped the real bomb. Ava's homeowner's policy excluded intentional acts.
So her insurance won't pay a single cent. She is personally exposed. File it. I want the HOA and Ava Whitlock held fully accountable for everything.
He signed the civil complaint that afternoon, naming the HOA and Ava Whitlock as defendants. The indemnity clause sat on the page like a loaded gun, its language sharp and unambiguous. Elijah's jaw locked. There was no turning back now. The lawsuit was filed at 4:12 p.m. By 5 o'clock, the HOA's phone was ringing off the hook. The process server walked into the HOA office at 5 p.m. sharp. He handed the receptionist a thick manila envelope. The damages sought: $18 million for the hatchery loss, plus $720,000 levied personally against Ava Whitlock.
18 million. They're blaming me personally. This cannot be real.
Ava tore open the envelope, her manicured hands trembling. The word intentional was circled in red on the insurance exclusion page. The HOA board members stared at their copies. One spoke, voice cracking.
This is a legal misunderstanding. We'll settle for a fraction and be done.
30 miles away, Elijah Beckett received the email. Served. They are panicking.
Now they'll understand what they did. No more hiding behind lawyers.
The board called an emergency meeting. Their lawyer warned them, Personal assets could be attached if they lost. For the first time, the HOA looked at Ava Whitlock and saw a liability, not a leader. The settlement offer came just 3 days later. Over a polished conference table, HOA lawyers slid a proposal toward Elijah's attorney.
$5 million, Mr. Beckett. Walk away, drop the lawsuit, and this is yours.
5 million doesn't bring back 780,000 fish. It doesn't reopen the lakes for a single angler.
Elijah shook his head and stood. His lawyer pushed the check back untouched.
$6 million then. Final offer. Take it or lose everything in court.
I already lost everything, Ava. You made sure of that.
He didn't look back. The conference room door closed behind him with a soft click. That afternoon, the HOA's lawyer informed them, without a settlement, their assets would be frozen pending trial. The trial date was set for February. The HOA faced an $18 million judgment with no insurance safety net. Elijah Beckett's case was headed to court, and the HOA was running out of options. 3 weeks before trial, the insurance company's certified letter landed on Ava's doorstep. Pursuant to policy exclusion 4B, coverage is denied. The drainage was an intentional act, not an accident.
No insurance payout. Every cent will come from my own assets. The settlement was my only way out.
The HOA's emergency financial review projected an $18 million liability, with $720,000 levied personally against Ava within 30 days.
Our combined reserves are barely $3 million. We can't even pay the legal fees, let alone the settlement.
Rick Polson's deposition was leaked. He admitted Ava had ordered him to bypass the county biologist.
If Rick testifies against me, the criminal case will follow. This isn't just a lawsuit anymore. I could lose everything. The house, the equity, the condo, and maybe my freedom.
With the HOA insolvent and her personal coverage void, the Whitlock mansion on Elm Street was now squarely in the state's crosshairs for asset seizure.
Everything I own. Auctioned off to pay for dead fish. This can't be happening.
A State Department of Natural Resources official arrived at the HOA office with a thick binder and a grim expression. By order of the State Water Resources Commission, all lake use permits under HOA jurisdiction are hereby revoked for a period of 10 years.
10 years? Without lake access, nobody will want to live here. The property values will collapse.
By sundown, a new sign blocked the lake gate. No public access. HOA permits revoked by state order. Furious residents flooded the HOA meeting room, waving their assessment bills and shouting over each other. Our property values are gone. We can't even launch a canoe. The voices hammered the boardroom like a storm.
Please, everyone, calm down. We're exploring legal options to overturn the revocation.
Someone threw a copy of the revocation order onto the table. It landed in front of Ava like a judicial indictment.
They're turning on me. These people will never vote for the board again. My HOA is finished.
By the end of the night, 3 board members resigned, and Ava Whitlock sat alone in the empty room, the no access sign reflected in the dark window. The state grant confirmation arrived on a Tuesday. Elijah Beckett read it twice, then set it down without a word. Emergency Hatchery Restoration Grant, $2.8 million. Purpose: rebuild Beckett Hatchery to full capacity.
They're trusting me to do it again. This time, no one will stop me.
Within a week, bulldozers cleared the old pond ruins. Cement mixers rolled in, their barrels spinning. Elijah stood in the hard hat, pointing at blueprints, his voice carrying over the machinery.
This hatchery will be bigger. We'll produce more fish than ever before.
Workers poured concrete into forms. The new ponds took shape, longer and deeper than the originals.
Next year's stocking will make the old records look small.
By month's end, the hatchery's skeleton stood against the sky, steel and fresh concrete under the autumn sun. The rebuilding was ahead of schedule, But the trial date still hung over everything like a winter storm. 3 months after the grant, the new hatchery was not just rebuilt, it was expanded with modern tanks and twice the capacity.
If we lose in court, all of this could be seized. But I can't stop now.
The spawning that winter outperformed every projection.
The genetics are stronger this time. They're healthier than the old stock.
6 weeks later, the head count came in. 1.1 million juvenile rainbow trout, a state record. The tanks teemed with life, a silver cloud of trout that meant 47 lakes could be restocked.
780,000 lost, 1.1 million born. We didn't just recover, we grew.
The head biologists signed off. Fish healthy, sizes within spec, ready for transport. But as stocking day approached, the trial date loomed just 2 weeks out. One phone call could freeze everything. But the fish were ready, and Elijah Beckett was not going to wait. By midweek, a crew from the State Parks Department drove new posts into the sand at what used to be the HOA's private beach.
This stretch of shoreline is federal now. Elijah, public fishing access forever.
Ava's precious private beach, thrown open to every angler in the state. Poetic.
A banner stretched across the access road. Restocking ceremony, Saturday, 10 a.m.
I want every family that lost their season last year to be here. This is for them.
We've sent invites to all 47 lake communities. The turnout will be massive.
2 days before the trial. If the judge freezes our assets, this ceremony becomes a memorial.
At the hatchery, workers loaded the first transport truck with shimmering juvenile trout.
They're perfect. Elijah, the state hasn't seen fish this healthy in years.
The beach was set, the fish were ready, and the next morning would bring either restoration or ruin. The morning sun climbed over the lake as hundreds of families gathered on the new public beach. Cameras from 3 states lined the shore.
Today, we undo a wrong. This ceremony marks the return of fishing to 47 lakes.
He's being treated like a hero, but I am the one being destroyed.
The transport truck rumbled onto the sand, and a cheer went up. Workers opened the valves, and the silver glint of fish caught the light. Elijah Beckett walked to the shoreline, a bucket of water and trout in his hands.
Tomorrow morning, the judge could freeze everything. But right now, these fish are alive.
The crowd grew quiet, watching him.
Look at them. They don't know he's about to take my house, my future.
Elijah, whenever you are ready.
He raised the bucket, the water trembling in his grip. The trial could wait. This was the moment. Elijah tipped the bucket. A cascade of silver flashed into the lake, and the first trout of the new season disappeared into the clear water. Underwater, the tiny trout darted into the depths, scattering like quicksilver, claiming the lake that had been silent for a year. The crowd erupted. Children cheered. Anglers raised their rods, and the banner, restocking our lakes, snapped in the breeze.
800,000 lost, 1.1 million born. The season is back.
Workers opened the truck valves wider, and thousands more trout rushed into the lake, form upon form shimmering under the surface. The HOA's former beach had become the loudest, most crowded fishing access point in the state, and the Whitlock name was nowhere on the signs.
That's my beach. Mine. And he turned it into a public spectacle.
But her rage was invisible, swallowed by the noise of families laughing, the splash of leaping trout, the click of 1,000 cameras. Warden Davis raised his radio to his mouth. Tell headquarters, the spring trout season is open. For the first time in 2 years, the word open echoed across 47 lakes, and it started right here. Warden Davis called Elijah to the podium. The crowd settled, cameras steadied, and the lake lapped quietly behind him.
A year ago, someone called my hatchery a swamp. She wanted it drained. She got her wish.
An old angler in the front row set his rod down and wiped his eyes. He had not fished this lake in 18 months.
But the season she tried to kill is back. And it's back because of you. The families, the outfitters, the people who refuse to let it die.
A father, standing on the new pier, lifted his daughter so she could see, and her small hand pointed toward the fish, still shimmering below the surface.
We lost 800,000 trout because someone wanted a little more power. But we built back stronger. 1.1 million. Justice doesn't always arrive on our schedule, but it arrived. And this beach belongs to all of you now.
He paused, letting the words settle. The silence was filled with the sound of families clapping.
So take your kids. Teach them to cast. The water is open, the fish are in, and the season is yours.
He stepped back from the microphone, and the applause rolled over him like a tide. 2 days after the stocking ceremony, the judge's pen scratched across the final order. The HOA's lake permits were already gone. Now, its insurance, its reserves, its very existence followed. Ava Whitlock stood on the courthouse steps, a thick envelope in her hands. Her pink blazer was rumpled, her mascara smudged.
One mosquito complaint, $18 million, and my name alone on the personal line.
Inside the envelope, the judgment read, 18 million against the HOA, dissolved immediately, 720,000 against Ava Whitlock personally. The morning newspaper carried the headline, HOA Laval, $18 million, judgment and lakes reopened. Elijah read the news, standing in the hatchery office, the hum of the tanks behind him.
It's not about the money. It's about the lake staying open. She can't hurt us anymore.
The Whitlock mansion on Elm Street went to auction. The HOA office door was bolted, and the no public access sign finally came down. Justice had been measured in dollars, but its weight was felt in every cast line and every child's first trout. By opening weekend, every lake was dotted with boats. The parking lots were full, and the bait shops had lines out the door.
Look at them. Elijah, this is what we were fighting for.
It's good to hear laughter on the water again.
At every state park entrance, a new sign stood. Spring trout, season open. Thanks to Beckett Hatchery. The state proclamation read, for extraordinary service to the people and natural resources of this state, we honor Elijah Beckett.
Ava thought she could end us. She just made us stronger.
Families lined the new pier, children squealing as they reeled in their first trout.
I've already placed next year's order, 1.2 million. Think you can swing it?
We'll be ready.
The lakes were alive again, and the woman who had tried to drain them was a ghost on the courthouse steps. The sun bled into the lake as Elijah sat alone on the newly public bench, the day's commotion a fading echo out on the pier. A father helped his son land a trout, the fish dancing at the end of the line. The boy's laugh carried across the water, clean and bright. Elijah let the sound wash over him, a quiet tide of something that felt like peace.
This is what I fought for. Not revenge. This.
He rose slowly, no hurry in his bones, and began walking the water's edge. Gulls crossed the orange sky, and the lake held the sunset like a mirror. His figure shrank against the vast shoreline, footprints filling behind him with each gentle wave. The hatchery would hum again at dawn, but tonight he simply walked, and the lake was alive. From above, the rebuilt hatchery looked like a blueprint come to life. 47 ponds, clean water, and the faint silver glint of fish. Parked outside the main office, the old pickup with Beckett Hatchery on the door sat ready for another dawn. A stone plaque on the public beach read, dedicated to William Flint, whose land became legacy. The tide lapped gently at its base. At sundown, a trout splashed in pond number 1, breaking the silence. and the water rippled outward across the state. 47 lakes shimmered under the same dying sun, full of promise. The season that was stolen had been returned, not by accident, but by a contract and the man who guarded it. In a drawer of that old pickup, the indemnity clause lay folded, the fine print that had given the lakes their voice, and on the shoreline, a father and his son cast lines into the water where the HOA had once kept the public away. The camera lifts, and the region shrinks to green and blue, a patchwork saved by a single, stubborn trout farmer. The story ends here, but the lakes do not.